Hey everybody, welcome to week 8 of the college football season, and we've got some great games lined up here. We had some good games last weekend. I wasn't around too much to pay attention to them besides the Iowa State game, but I heard and saw clips from some others that were rather exciting. So without further ado, let's get into it. I have all the Big 12 games. Nobody's on a bye this week, so that's fun. I get to watch everybody. And there's been a lot of shaking up in the Big 12, and there's some other interesting games out there. So we'll just jump into it here. Switch over the camera. And our first game is, again, Friday night at 9:15. It's fun to have these Friday night games, but I don't know how I feel about these 9 p.m. and after games. They're hard to watch. I can't stay up till midnight consistently to watch these. But as we have seen all season, Oklahoma State is hot garbage, and they can't really do much for anything. And BYU is rather good. Better than expected. Oklahoma State worse than expected. And this is BYU at home on a Friday night. We saw what happened to Kansas State in this scenario. Not on a Friday night, but BYU at home. And BYU can probably just run all over the Cowboys. So I don't think there's much to analyze with this one, but who knows. This technically really isn't a double-digit spread because only one book has it, but I want to make the comment that it feels, I don't have the stats to back this up, but it feels like there's a lot of double-digit upsets this year in the Big 12, so that's a little bit concerning, a little bit foreshadowing, but moving on here. Our first Saturday game at 11 a.m., Arizona State against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's all right. They beat UCF last week, so that's exciting. Arizona State, though, is coming off of a really good win. They beat Utah, and that was not out of the ordinary, I suppose, but it was definitely unexpected. And it's funny, Utah was ranked first in the preseason poll, and Arizona State was ranked last, and it's pretty much flipped. They're not first and last, but compared to each other, relatively, they flipped. Going to Cincinnati at home early morning. I haven't looked into it for the Big 12, but the Big 10, the teams that have to travel east or have to travel across 2 time zones in general, but traveling east is harder than traveling west. They're 10-3, or sorry, the home team is 10-3. So the teams that have to travel across 2 time zones are 3-10, and I think 4-9 against the spread, and that's 2-9 if you get rid of 20-plus point spreads. So it's this one will be. I would, on a neutral site game in Arizona time zone, I would expect them to win, but this will be a 8 a.m. game for them, won't it? That's 3 time zones, isn't it? So 8 a.m. body clock game, so that'll be really hard for them. I think it'll be interesting. I don't know. I don't have a feel for this one at all. I just think with how massive these conferences are getting, that these big time zone jumps are interesting and playing a part in it. Next at 2:30, we got Houston at Kansas. And this is, of course, at Arrowhead because it's a Kansas home game, and the lowest price ticket is $4, and the most expensive is $250. So if you want to go see a Kansas game, I mean, they're playing Houston, so it's not going to be a super exciting game, but you can go watch a game in an NFL stadium for less than the price of a Starbucks coffee. But Kansas favored. I mean, besides one interesting turnout, I would pretty much bet against Houston in any scenario, so that's kind of where we're at. Houston doesn't really have much of anything to go off of, so Kansas on that one. This one should be a good game, 3 p.m. Colorado at Arizona. Colorado coming off a hard loss to Kansas State, and Arizona, let me see in my professional skills here, Arizona lost to BYU. So, take what you will from that. I think Arizona's not on BYU's level, but that's more of a perk of BYU and not a dig at Arizona. So I think it could be a good game. Again, a lot of the Big 12 games are supposed to be good games. Traditionally, I'm going to root for Colorado to lose, so hopefully Arizona can win this one. Last week, though, that Colorado lost by 3, and I think the spread was 3 or 3.5, so they were right on the money with that one. Next, same time, 3 p.m., Baylor at Texas Tech, and both of these teams I don't really care for. Texas Tech is my failed dark horse for 2 years in a row, and I just dislike Baylor because of Tentgate still. But I don't know. I don't know if this is really a big rivalry with them both being Texas schools. I don't know much about either of these teams, to be honest. I'm surprised Dave Aranda hasn't gotten fired yet, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see if this game changes it at all. I think they were on a bye last week, so that helps his case, but I'd take Texas Tech to win this one. I don't know if they'd... I feel like they should be able to cover a 6.5 point spread when the over-under is 55. I feel like they win by like 12 to 18, but who knows. This game, I'm slightly upset about the timing of it because it's at the exact same time as the Iowa State game, and I think this would be the most exciting game of the week in terms of Big 12. Kansas State at West Virginia. West Virginia seemed a little not as good as I expected in our game last week. And we played them at their home, and now Kansas State's going to West Virginia. So I think Kansas State will be fine. I don't know. I mean, West Virginia playing there is hard to do sometimes, but sometimes it's not. Apparently there wasn't a big issue last week, but who knows? I think Kansas State can pull it out if they learn how to run the ball without just their quarterback. Or no, pass the ball. They need to be able to be like a dual threat. So we'll see if that ever comes into fruition or if their quarterback is just going to be a second running back. But like I said, most interesting game to watch. Unfortunately, I will be watching because I'll be at this game, same time, 6:30, 2-touchdown favorite, which we're 6-0 and we're ranked 9th in the country, but a double-digit spread in the Big 12 scares me because that's too much of an underdog story. I think we'll win. I don't really have concern about winning. I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough about UCF to be like, yeah, we're definitely going to win by 2 touchdowns. So I'd be cautious of the spread, and especially with how slow we've been in the first half. Last week was better, but traditionally how slow we've been in the first half. If we can get up and do well in the first half, then we'll cover the spread just fine, because I think we'll still clear them out in the second half. But I think this will be a close game for the first half. That's a cop-out, but I'll be at the game, so I'll be enjoying it. And then after that game, we get to watch the tragedy of TCU versus Utah. If Utah was anything like what we expected them to be at the start of the season, this would not be a 4-point spread. This would be like a 2-touchdown spread at least. TCU is not great. They're not awful, but they're not good. And Utah is apparently not great anymore either, because Cam rose, and he's risen, and he's back again, he's resurrected, and he's bad, at least last weekend. So, who really knows? I feel like Utah's a wild card depending on if Cam Rising can rise to the occasion or not, but I don't really care about this game, to be honest. If Utah keeps losing, that's fine with me, because then it'll make the end of our season easier, and we just have to worry about Kansas State. So, there's that. Outside of the Big 12, some other interesting games. Michigan State, again, requested going against Iowa, so that's 2 birds in 1 stone. I don't know what they did last weekend. I didn't keep up with them. Hawkeyes beat Washington 40-16, I believe. That was a good win for them. Again, a 2-time zone traveler in Washington, but Iowa did really well, and they looked a lot more dominant than they used to. So, going to Michigan State, I don't know how difficult it is to play there or anything, but I hope the game can be close. I don't think anything with this game. Of course, I have to root for Iowa for a quality win, but I think it could be close. Low over under, of course, though. My big game of Friday night. I've been talking about this 2 time zone jump, and if you're paying attention to college football at all in the media, then you've heard about this in the Big Ten. Purdue is a special case, though. They're 27-point underdogs, but I would dabble, and I have, on Purdue's money line, because they have, for some reason, the tradition of upsetting ranked teams when they come to Purdue. And this game is Friday night. Oregon is traveling 3 time zones. So, not that a 4 p.m. game really matters in how body clocks are. If this was an 11 a.m. game, that might matter more. But based on the trends, Purdue should at least cover 27.5, which, who knows? Purdue is bad, but they did just go into overtime with Illinois, and Illinois isn't awful. They're not great, but they're not awful. But this is another one of those, like, Vanderbilt beats Alabama. Like, this, Purdue, just with their track record, nothing's out of the question for them against ranked teams, for whatever reason. So I hope that'll at least be an interesting game, and who knows? Who knows about the upset alert? But I think it would be really fun to see. Alabama and Tennessee, this is, I don't know if this is the game of the weekend, but 2 highly ranked teams going up against each other, both top 10, and this was the first field goal post in the River game a few years ago when Tennessee beat Alabama and marched it down to the River. So maybe they'll do that again. I don't think they'd storm the field if they won this time, but, you know, I'll always root against Alabama. That is all. USC and Maryland. USC, they had a close game. They almost beat Penn State, I think. I'm getting some of my games mixed up, but they had a close game last week and did better than expected. In my mind, I didn't watch it, but the stats-wise, I kind of chalked them up as a loss pretty quickly, but I think they should be fine against Maryland. Going to Maryland, 3 p.m., whatever. I think touchdown favorite. I don't think there should be really an issue, but who knows? Multiple time zone travelers. So, you know, I'm going with Maryland on that one based on the trend there. But sorry, USC fans. I think you could win, but based on trends, I don't think you can win. Figure that one out. Last game, Georgia and Texas. Another highly ranked matchup, and I don't know. I don't like Georgia, I don't like Texas, and a lot of these outside of the Big 12 matchups are based on vibes, so, I mean, I'm going to pick Texas. Texas is a powerhouse this season. They've been really good, and I don't know, they're one of the more unstoppable teams this season, especially after Ohio State lost to Oregon. So I think Texas might win it all. I don't know if they will win it all, but they're the ones with the best shot to do it, and the best ability is to do it. So I think this will be a big game in that tell if it comes down to it in the end. Win over Georgia would be really good for the college football playoff placement for them. And yeah, I think a home win for them is not out of the question. So this is all the matchups. Nice little matchup video here for week 8. It's an exciting week. Halfway through the season almost. No, more than halfway through it, aren't we? 14 weeks of the season before playoffs and bowl games and all that. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what matchups you're looking at, what games you're watching this weekend, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.